And welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is currently chugging a chug-a-lug. It's John Levingood.
Some big overly sugary thing. Why is it always the skinny people who are drinking all those sugary drinks, and then like we big people, well, like me big people, are always drinking Diet
waters?
Coke?
Yeah.
Something with no calories.
I just love the little play on words there. Chug. It's just so obvious, but every time I see chug-a-e-h lug, I just laugh.
Chug-a?
It's just so obvious, but I love it. It's one of those things where if I came up with that, I would have patted myself on the back.
I never noticed it.
Really?
I never knew. I just saw the chug.
Yeah, so below it, chug a lug. So when you go when they go into the convenience store, A to Z, A to Z, and then you go into looking at the thing, they had it featured so strong.
I somehow missed that.
Yeah, it just cracks me up, man. But this movie. So, John, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about Tusk with me. I've wanted to talk about this movie for years, and I'm glad that you finally settled down and you're ready to talk about this on the podcast.
So, yeah, but you've always loved this movie, and I initially didn't. And now I like it more, but I'm still not, I don't know how to put it. I'm a fan of the movie now, but I don't necessarily like the movie.
I love it. And I'll always be tied with it because so in our current house, when I went to go watch it in the theaters, and that's the day we got our loan approved to purchase our house. So
Tusk is your lucky movie.
Yeah, I'll always be tied with Tusk in that regards. Now, we're going to jump all over the place here. So obviously this is directed by Kevin Smith, and they kind of were reading this ad based in England about a guy who wanted someone to live in their house rent-free, but they had to dress up as a walrus for 2 hours a day. And they started riffing on it on the Smodcast, and less than a year later, they were filming it. 15 days in North Carolina, then they moved on to an LA unit. But what I love so much about this movie, John, is it's about a guy getting turned into a werewolf, a walrus. It's as advertised, it's weird, and when you notice Kevin Smith talking about this film, he calls it a dopey little movie. But I think Kevin Smith put everything he had into this. I thought it looked great. The Walrus by Robert Kurtzman, of KMB, he brought in the guy who worked on From Dusk Till Dawn, Evil Dead 2, Nose 5, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, People Under the Stairs, Ticks, New Nightmare, Spawn, Boogie Nights, Faculty, Simple Plan, 13 Ghosts, Bubba Hotep, Shark Lake, A Cabin Fever, Tremors, Predator. The Walrus costumes, I think, look really great. The cinematographer, I don't know if you know this, but he moved on, James Laxton, he moved on to shoot Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, and he has an Academy Award nomination. I think Moonlight's just a beautiful looking film. He shot the crap out of it. Looks great. He also did Bad Milo about the butt baby that kills
the
things.
Butt demon.
And then the production designer also worked on Strangers. He did a ton of TV. The guy knows how to work on a budget. When you work in TV, you know how to move fast. But
do you mean the movie The Strangers? Is the movie?
Yeah, The Strangers. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I thought the production design in this was really good. I love the shots in this film. Kevin Smith wasn't happy just to make a flat-looking film. There was a lot of camera movement. I think they really, on a technical level, I think this might be this is his best-looking movie. And I guess let's jump into it right now. We sent out things on Facebook and Twitter, and a lot of people responded, John. We got more than normal, the amount of people.
Yep, definitely.
A lot of likes, a lot of comments. Someone even shared with us some Tusk artwork they did. A lot of people talked about the movie. A lot of actually really fun questions. But the biggest divisiveness, and with our friends also, with Billy Crash and Johnny Numb of the Last Knock podcast, incredibly smart dudes, know exactly what they're talking about. And I think the same with you is, you guys were all in the beginning of the movie, and then it sort of fell off for you, correct?
For me, yeah, especially, yeah.
And I know Johnny Numb said the same thing, and then also Billy Crash did that as well. But for some reason, I love... All right, okay, so did you watch the Walrus Yes documentary?
Yes.
Cool, awesome. And then they also did this interview where he talks for 30 minutes about how he got Johnny Depp for this movie. He originally wanted Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino said no. So he picked up Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp said yes. He showed up. Johnny Depp did his own makeup, had pretty much say in everything he did. But that scene where he's eating the burgers and he's talking about this killer and how he's killed 23 people and how he hunted them. And I love the scene where Michael Parks is talking about spiders because he uses brown recluses later. For some reason, I like Gila Point. I think I'm the only human being on the planet who does. I just think it's weird. And that's why I love it. It's Johnny Depp being weird again. And I give movies points for just being weird. Does that make sense?
That's fine. And in general, I'd agree. But again, Depp just rubbed me very much the wrong way in this.
I mean, he definitely had creative control to kind of do what he wanted. But I just thought it was, I don't know, I kind of dug his just eating, the way they were talking, the camera work of the scene. And I don't know, I like that he was hunting down Michael Parks and the story he told about the hockey player. And I like that really weird interaction he had with Michael Parks. Parks wanted him to go inside so the villain wanted him to go inside his cabin, like Howard, probably to kill him, right?
See, I think that was like a half and half. I think he was just being a totally innocent, nondescript guy. He's like, oh yeah, you can go inside and take a look if you want, but like those people who seem unsuspicious, like you never do.
Yeah.
So, but if he did, then he would just dispatch him inside. But I think he expected that the inspector would not go.
Yeah, you're right. I like that scene. I like when he writes that thing down on the paper and they're like, that's from Big Lebowski. He's like, that's where I learned it. And then, I don't know, what's his driving rituals. I kind of like the detective work. And Kevin Smith said no one would care about this movie, or people wouldn't care about this movie if it was just Justin Long and Michael Parks in a room. He said they needed an outside force trying to save him to add tension. Do you agree with that?
I think so. Part of me does love a good, well-executed chamber thriller, but they're just inherently tough. And I think that when they do work, it's a talented filmmaker who was forced to do it because of budgetary constraints. If you're not forced to do it, why do it?
Yeah. And so I guess, he had Michael Parks, who wasn't even acting at the time, so he dragged him back from Red State. And he only had him for a finite number of days. So I guess he wanted to add in, something different, someone looking for him. But I don't know, man. I like that. It's just so weird, John. It's like when that scene happened to me, I was alone in the theater. No one went to watch it. And I was just sitting there going, I love this. Because I just hadn't seen something so weird in a long time. And that's kind of why I dug it.
So I saw this in theaters, and my high school friend, who I occasionally catch a movie with over in St. Petersburg, she looked at me with this face, like, look what you chose that I had to sit through. And remember, we both loved it at the beginning. I want to be clear. The whole first act, I loved. I was in love with these characters, their character dynamics, the writing, how lived in and congenial and sincerely natural they felt. I liked the things they talked about. I didn't feel like anything was forced or written to be clever. This just felt like when we're having fun on a podcast now. They felt like real people being funny, talking about things they really cared about. And they felt like real friends. So that was all awesome. Justin Long, Wallace, that is, going to Canada, going through the customs agent, that whole interaction was outstanding at the bars. If I just saw the first 30 minutes of this movie and said, John, what do you think? I'm like, how many stars can I give it? That's my answer. But then again, it started to degenerate a bit for me. I did like the whole middle of it. It's really the last 10 to 20 minutes that I fall more into a specific dislike.
Was it the walrus fight? Were you not a fan of?
See, the things mixed feelings, right? Because I love zany things, and that scene is batshit crazy, and I like
yes,
and I like batshit crazy things, right? Dude, the guy has turned you into a walrus against your will. You are stitched into this horrifying suit. He has installed tusks into your upper jaw. Like, this is sick, right? And he is now wearing a suit, looking you in the eye with a straight face, giving you a lecture about primal walrusism. And there's a nature show on in the background of this is, so I can celebrate that. But then when I reflect on that in the movie, that felt too batshit for this movie for me. If that makes sense. It's like, am I watching Army of Darkness or am I watching The Shining? Because I felt like I got an Army of Darkness zany scene put into The Shining there. You know what I mean? So I love the scene, but it felt very displaced to me. I don't feel like it's crazy. And I do remember people can say, like, John, this movie's crazy. Don't you get it? It gets crazier and crazier. But even that withstanding, for me, it didn't fit in hindsight.
I kind of just love how it added another wrinkle to Michael Park's villain in that, so not only was he trying to rebuild a walrus, and he had been doing this for some time, but then he wanted to fight the walrus every year to give himself like a chance, to give the walrus a chance at redemption. But then when Justin Long's walrus character becomes too walrusy for him, he kind of is like, all right, I'm out of here. He's like, you've gone full walrus. You've gone full animal. Like he was going to leave.
I like the phrase full walrus, by the way.
And then he gets stabbed in the foot. And then he gets stabbed. Oh, I love that walrus. Yes, they showed how all the blood worked from those tubings. I thought that was a lot of fun. But then he just starts stabbing him in the chest, and blood just starts flying everywhere. And that's when Teddy and Genesis run in, or Haley Joel Osment and Genesis Rodriguez run in, Allie and Teddy. And he just looks at him, and it's just. And at the end, he cries. Oh man, this movie.
So if we didn't have Teddy and Allie and the inspector coming to save him at that time, if that was removed, just the timing that they were happening at the same time, right? You're going one shot to the next back and forth. I don't think I would have been bothered by the scene at all. I think at that point I would have bought the batshit level. But again, I think that when you throw in the silliness of their rescue mission with the music that they were playing for their rescue mission and Johnny Depp's ludicrous character again, fumbling around with his gun while he's trying to keep up with them trying to save him. That's really, so if you remove that happening parallel to the walrus fight, I don't think I all of a sudden have a problem with the walrus fight, but it altered the tone. For me, it shifted it in a weird direction for me. And then it kept doing that with the whole Teddy and Allie and our walrus Wallace at the end. That's another thing where the ending is this weird, twisted, all pseudo slapstick, but straight face deadpan scene. But in the greater movie, for me, I found it hard to swallow. And I was left feeling like, what the crap did Kevin Smith just do? That he really did that. Like, I don't know how I feel about it.
That's why I want Moose Jaws, because I heard that Justin Long's walrus character is going to make a reappearance in Moose Jaws if he ever makes it.
Is this a real movie that might happen?
So that Kevin Smith went into Tusk, right? And I'm not saying it wasn't a massive success in theaters. I mean, this movie had a tiny budget, under $5 million, shot really quickly. But it sold and it made money enough to go make Yoga Hosers. But then Yoga Hosers died a very quick death, and then the plans for Moose Jaws were scrapped. So Moose Jaws is essentially Jaws but with a moose.
And it's the third of a weird trilogy.
And all, it would have taken not a View Askew universe, it would have taken a Great North universe. Everything would have met together in that film.
So you said this had a $5 million budget?
Yeah.
So I'll say, no matter what my overall feelings are of Tusk, right? I'm impressed that he made it. I'm happy that he made it, even if I'm not thrilled with the movie. I loved a lot of aspects of it, but I didn't know what its budget was. When you tell me it was just $5 million, I am now yet more impressed and appreciative of this piece of art, if you will, even if it's not the art that I want to hang over my mantle.
Oh, wait, $3 million. I apologize.
Super impressed. Yeah. Super impressed.
So, I mean, they shot this for 15 days, North Carolina. That's a nothing shoot. I mean, that's considering a lot of movies are about the 60-day range. And, if it's Marvel, it's probably 85. So, $3 million, dude. So, I don't know. Between the production design, the crew he had, I don't know. That's what I love about it. And that's why I love that he did the documentary Walrus Yes, which we both liked. I kind of liked how I want to show it to my students. They're going to be like, Mark, you're weird. But what I like most about it is it really does show the 15-day life on set. It shows the kind of mundane times. It shows the crew interacting. There's nothing glorified. What did you think about that documentary, Walrus?
It was very different from what I normally expect from like a making of or behind the scenes